Hello everyone, welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. The Constitutional Council in Chad has confirmed Mohamed Idris Deby as the country's president with 61% of the vote, far ahead of his rivals Success Masra and Albert Bahimi Padake. Following the announcement, Success Masra, who disputed Mr. Deby's victory, says he's accepting the decision and urging calm and patience among his supporters. Mohamed Idris Deby was declared the winner after the council reviewed and reaffirmed vote counts. Despite minor adjustments, Mr. Deby won with 61.03%, followed by his prime minister with 18.54%. Voter turnout was 75.78%. President-elect Mohamed Idris Deby's camp expressed satisfaction at the council's announcement, celebrating the election as a fulfilled promise of the transitional period. In Senegal, Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has raised the possibility of closing French military bases in the country. Mr. Sonko was speaking at a conference in the capital, Dakar, saying he wondered why Senegal still had several French bases more than 60 years after independence from France. He also questioned the impact of the French military presence on the country's sovereignty. He has promised to strengthen ties with Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger Republic, who have pushed out French troops and turned to Russia for help in fighting jihadist insurgencies. France has about 350 troops in Senegal. And Rwanda's President Paul Kagame has officially submitted his candidacy to the country's poll body for the July presidential elections. He had already confirmed last September that he would be seeking a fourth term. He is widely expected to win the poll, which could see him extend his presidency to nearly 3 decades, two of his opponents, opposition politicians Bernard Ntaganda and Victoire Ingabire, have recently been barred from vying in the election over previous convictions. Mr. Kagame won the last presidential election in 2017 with nearly 99% of the vote. The 66-year-old has faced criticism from rights groups, which have accused him of cracking down on the opposition. And South Africans living abroad are voting ahead of the main poll slated for May 29. They are the first set of voters to cast their ballots. South African voters living in Algeria, Egypt, Iran, Jordan, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia and Syria are casting their votes at their respective foreign missions between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. local time. South Africans in over 100 other countries will vote on Saturday. Voting will be extended to Sunday for voters in London, where nearly a third of over 76,000 South African voters living abroad are expected to cast their ballots. Voting will not happen in Israel, Ukraine and Sudan, which are all currently experiencing conflict. Israeli lawyers have told the United Nations top court that the country has the right to move ahead with a full-scale offensive on Rafah in southern Gaza to defend itself against Palestinian group Hamas after South Africa filed an urgent request to order a ceasefire as part of a wider case accusing Israel of genocide. The court heard a new request from South Africa on Thursday to issue more constraints on Israeli military action in the Gaza Strip. Ambassador to the Netherlands, Vusimuzi Modosela, delivered the reading of the concluding submissions of South Africa.
South Africa, as a state party to the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, respectfully request the court to indicate the following provisional measures, the text of which has been amended to reflect the ever-increasing gravity of the situation. South Africa respectfully requests the court to order the State of Israel as a state party to the Genocide Convention and as a party to these proceedings to, 1, immediately and further to its obligations under the court's previous orders of 26 January 2024 and 28 March 2024, cease its military operations in the Gaza Strip, including in Rafah Governorate, and withdraw from the Rafah crossing and immediately totally and unconditionally withdraw Israeli army from the entirety of the Gaza Strip. 2, immediately and further to its obligations under the Provisional Measure 4 of the Court's 26 January 2024 order and Provisional Measures 2A and 2B of the Court's decision of March 2024, take all effective measures to ensure and facilitate the unimpeded access to Gaza of United Nations and other officials engaged in the provision of humanitarian aid and assistance to the population of Gaza, as well as fact-finding missions, internationally mandated bodies and/or officials, investigators, and journalists in order to access and record conditions on the ground in Gaza and enable the effective preservation and retention of evidence and ensure that its military does not act to prevent such access, provision, preservation, or retention.
The Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Dr. Rafael Grossi, says the world needs to be vigilant, warning that world leaders need to be aware that the worst can happen if they do not encourage dialogue. He admits that the world is going through a very difficult moment as international tensions heighten, but says the IAEA will not tire in its role as a nuclear watchdog. He was speaking in an exclusive interview with Channels Television.
We are sometimes known as the nuclear watchdog. And, it's a description that might be for some uncomfortable. I'm not uncomfortable. When it comes to preventing nuclear weapons from appearing, I like to be a watchdog. So we try to be this institution that does that as well, as efficiently as possible. But it's obvious that we are going through a very difficult period in international relations where tensions have flared up in a big way, and we need these institutions to try to avoid the worst.
Are you afraid that the worst can happen?
I think it's a possibility. We have to be aware of this. We have to be conscious of the fact that if we do not take the necessary actions and if we are not proactive in facilitating solutions, in opening ways for dialogue, this might happen. The unthinkable may happen. We've seen it recently. People were saying there will never be a war, Russia, Ukraine. Well, then one day it happened. People were saying, let me cite a case which we have not mentioned yet, that North Korea would never, then they tested a nuclear weapon and now they have nuclear weapons.
Well, for more on this conversation, please watch Hard Copy tonight at 8:30 on all our platforms. Insecurity in Nigeria is a major threat to the stability and development of a nation and its citizens, posing great challenges to students in schools, thereby hindering continuous education. At a media roundtable in Lagos, the Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center, Ward C, a civil rights organization, brings together partners and the media in creating awareness on the 2015 Safe Schools Declaration project, and also to highlight the pertinent role the fourth estate of the realm plays in implementing policies in the country. Our correspondent, Layo Laride, was there and now reports.
The safety of every school child is paramount to the preservation of the next generation of any country. Sadly, insecurity, among other factors, has constantly been one of the major difficulties hindering education of students in Nigeria. This was the crux of a media roundtable organized by the Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center, Ward C, to discuss the important assignment the media, civil society organizations, the government, and the community have in implementing safe school policies.
The aim of the project is to see to the effective implementation of safe school policies in Nigeria, especially the domestication of the national policy on safety, security, and violence-free schools. the lack of awareness among the public. More needs to be done, and the media have a key role to play in this.
Founder, Director of Ward C, Abiola Akiode Afolabi, speaks on the reason behind organizing the meeting.
This gathering is to support the understanding of the media about the Safe School Declaration that was adopted by Nigeria in 2015, which is a global initiative that started from Norway and responds to issues of safety and security of schools.
This is the second phase of the awareness of the Safe School Declaration in Lagos. The first phase was in the north of the country, the hardest hit by insecurity, hampering the learning of children.
I was involved in research by UNICEF, Save the Children, and other groups where, they have gone to the 6th region and they understand the peculiarity based on that research, of students in schools. So it is laws are made by that process. So we'd expect that with the work that a lot of people are already doing around school, the government should be able to draw a legal framework from it. We are working with the National Human Rights on it, but what we are saying is that it's important for government to declare this as an issue and to contribute to it, especially because the government has adopted the Safe School.
People living with disability also have a call for inclusion and priority for their community when safety measures are being put in place in schools.
For people with disability, we need inclusion for the safety. For people with disability, number one, we need an inclusive schools. An inclusive schools that there will be a perfect security, because some of the parents are afraid to put their children in schools. Some kept their children in school because they thought there is no safety for person with disability, because in case there is an emergency, how will they save them during the crisis? That is why so many of the parents keep their children at home. For us to encourage the parents, for them to educate people with disability, we need an inclusive with better security.
Education is a fundamental human right, and the Safe Schools Declaration, SSD, seeks the protection of education during armed conflict and the importance of the continuation of education during armed conflict. As with many societal issues, the media and community have been tasked with emphasizing and enhancing reportage on the safe school policies, the Safe School Declaration, and advocacy for safe schools in Nigeria. Save schools now. Layo Olarinde, Channels Television News.
The governor of the Western Sudanese region of Darfur, Mini Minawi, is urging civilians to take up arms to defend themselves and the regional capital, El Fasher, from the paramilitary rapid support forces, which has been besieging the city for weeks. More than 60 people have died and hundreds wounded since the latest clashes began on May 10. According to medical charity Doctors Without Borders, the governor was responding to a similar call by RSF, which he said had launched a new campaign to mobilize fighters from all regions to invade the city. The paramilitary forces and the Sudanese army, backed by Darfur armed groups, have continued to trade blames over the escalating sporadic violent ground clashes in El Fasher. The UN's humanitarian coordinator for Sudan, Clementine Nkweta Salami, has warned that the continued violence threatens the lives of over 800,000 civilians. Meanwhile, the government of South Sudan and rebel opposition groups have signed a commitment declaration for peace during high-level mediation talks in Kenya. The agreement is a key step in efforts to end the conflict in South Sudan that has long crippled its economy. South Sudan is due to hold elections in December but remains politically fragile, in part because the 2018 peace agreement is yet to be fully implemented and because conflict and violence continues in different parts of the country over ethnic and political differences. Two civil wars have left the country fractured along ethnic lines, with civilians bearing the brunt of the violence. Musa Gassama, director of the United Nations mission in South Sudan's Human Rights Division, spoke at a recent two-day forum hosted by the UN peacekeeping mission in the country's capital, Juba, where he revealed that despite all efforts to promote human rights, the young nation is still grappling to establish an effective criminal justice system.
Ensuring accountability is crucial for creating a just and equitable society where human rights are respected and protected, including justice for victims and conflict-affected communities. This training initiative aims to strengthen the operational capacity of justice chain actors and civil society organizations to effectively monitor, investigate, document, and support efforts to report human rights violations and abuses, and also to improve accountability mechanisms in South Sudan.
We in the sector are aware the domestication of these legal frameworks is very important. So which means we must study and do analysis as to what exists in our country by way of ensuring that human rights are addressed nationally.
This training came in a crucial time when justice system, including human rights violations and abuses, are still grappling in South Sudan.
Gabon's military-led government has denied allegations by deposed President Ali Bongo's lawyers that his wife, Sylvia, and eldest son, Nuruddin, were tortured in custody. Mr. Bongo's lawyers had said on Tuesday that the ousted president and his two youngest sons had gone on hunger strike to protest against the alleged torture, which they said included beatings, whippings, strangulation, and electrocution with a taser. However, the army says the allegations are slanderous and damaging Gabon's image. Speaking in an address on state TV, government spokesperson Lawrence Ndong further denied that the junta authorities were preventing Mr. Bongo from leaving Gabon or receiving visitors, including his lawyers and family members at home. 65-year-old Ali Bongo was ousted in a military coup in August last year, shortly after he won a disputed presidential poll. A burial service has been held for 35 people who were killed in bombings at displaced persons camps in Goma earlier this month. The ceremony held in the same city of Goma, with many grieving for their loved ones, holding crosses with the names of victims and carrying coffins to the funeral. At the service, civil society groups also demanded justice and that the perpetrators must be caught and prosecuted. The Democratic Republic of Congo government has condemned the bomb attacks as a war crime and accused Rwanda of supporting M23 rebels, a claim strongly denied by the Rwandan government. Well, a round of farewell meetings. The United Nations Special Representative Catriona Leng visited Hajisia, where she met Somaliland's leadership and discussed the world body's support for development and humanitarian efforts. It was also an opportunity to officially introduce the new head of the UN's office in Hajisia, Nikolai Rogosarov, who took up his post in March this year. She described his presence there as an indication of the UN's commitment to supporting local development and humanitarian efforts. Currently, more than a dozen UN agencies, funds, and programs operate in Somaliland.
We had a very good discussion, and the President talked to me about the development plan, which sets out his economic long-term vision around the benefits of the blue economy, around minerals, and thinking about transformation of the livestock trade as we prepare for climate change impacts on the nomadic lifestyle. We talked about the UN role in support of delivering the economic vision and all the other work we do around social development, health, education, humanitarian, and so on. We talked about the Lassanud Sul region, where of course there has been some challenges in the past, and we were both pleased to see that things have calmed down here, and the President assured me that that is his objective, that for things to remain calm. And I explained that the UN will play its part in delivering humanitarian assistance and demining and so on for the benefit of the people in that region.
Our text next segment now is the grand finale of the three-day Anambra State Tech Stars Startup Weekend organized by Solution Innovation District, where young talents and innovative minds converged and in 52 hours put their entrepreneurial spirit and innovative ideas to a critical test, as well as present them before select judges for assessment, according to the special advisor to the Anambra State Governor, Chukwuma Soludo, on innovation and business incubation. Governor Soludo's mantra of everything technology and technology everywhere is focusing on making Anambra the Silicon Valley of Africa. Most of the solutions were focused on health and security as well as education.
It's the final day of the intensive critical thinking and development program of the Solution Innovation District Hub in Awka, the Anambra State capital. Young tech startups, innovators and creative minds are divided in groups and given a time of 52 hours to create ideas and develop them into solutions to health, education, agriculture and economic problems, among others.
Is that we're inspiring new startup ideas. We want to change the startup landscape of Anambra State so that in the next few years, startups will be hearing their names out of Africa, would be from Anambra State.
The grand finale features the tech startups making their presentations before seasoned innovation judges.
You will now select the particular crops that you want to venture into. If it's livestock, then when you click on livestock, we have so many of them. We have poultry, we have fishery. You can click on it.
These 5 groups covered agriculture, health, education, and the environment, among others. After commending the efforts of the tech startups, the judges announced Team Study IQ as winner with a prize of ₦500,000.
We created a product, a platform where tools are provided for students so that they will be able to make learning easier and they'll be able to make learning more better and more efficient. And also, they can upload their PDFs, their school, their textbooks. They can upload their textbook and generate questions from those textbooks. So they can use those questions to learn. They can collaborate with their classmates. They can collaborate with their friends and can also answer questions together.
For the special advisor, her office will not only incubate the ideas and give them access to innovators, they will also get government support.
What we're going to be doing after this is to incubate these ideas and then, give them access to investors. And then they have full government support at the Solution Innovation District here. They use our co-working space. They get the free training. They get matched with mentors. And we go all out to promote them to the world because the whole idea Mr. Governor has is to build the Silicon Valley of Africa right here in Anambra State.
In less than 2 years, the Solution Innovation District has made significant impact on the people of Anambra State through initiatives such as the Code Anambra program, Level Up Anambra program, Teens Digital Bootcamp, and now the Techstars Startup Weekend.
And finally, the Kenyan Wildlife Authority is warning and urging residents of Nairobi's Langata area to be watchful following reports of 3 lions spotted nearby. On Thursday, a team from the Kenyan Wildlife Service was deployed to search for the reported roaming lions near Langata Women's Prison on the outskirts of the city. But the team was unable to find the lions after a long night search. The KWS says the team is still monitoring the situation closely and is on high alert. Residents are urged to report any wildlife sightings in the area. It's not the first time lions are reported to have escaped from the Nairobi National Park, which is feted for being the only game park in the world within a city. Well, that's it on our program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.